Hello friends, so my name is Vishwas Desai and on YouTube I have a series of videos which is related to basics of accounts. You can view them on my channel. Today we are going to talk about ledger, and within ledger we are going to do a few solved examples. We have already done a previous video which is on the concept of ledger. So it is assumed that you have already viewed that lecture, or you already have the basic knowledge of ledger, and now you are looking for a few solved examples. So I will start sharing my screen where you can see the solved example, and we will go through a few solved examples so that the concept of ledger is reinforced in your mind. So just a quick debrief from the previous lecture. Uh, Ledger is prepared because the journal is very cumbersome, and if you want to know for a particular account what is the status, you cannot do that by looking at the ledger in one glance, because the entries will be on different pages in the journal. So you prepare the ledger, and for a particular account, all the entries are supposed to be reflected on that same one page. So you get a bird's eye view, you get a clear cut picture as to what is the transactions occurring with that party or with respect to that account, and you can get to know the net impact of all those transactions. Okay, so essentially what you want to know is the net impact of all the transactions for any account, and the net impact is what is the closing balance of any ledger, right, of any account, right? Instead of using the word ledger, you could also use the word account, right? It's the same thing. So the whole objective of writing the accounts is that you should have the latest status available in your books very easily without needing to do any further calculations. So that is why the ledger format is there. We have seen the format already. So now the first solved example. The above process of recording transactions can be studied with the help of solving an example. So there are only two transactions here. One, balance of cash on 1st January 2018. We'll just take a skip on this because this is a little advanced concept. This is not about posting, right? So basically we said that we're going to talk about posting. You already got a journal entry, and how do you post the journal entry into the ledger? That is what we are going to start with the first solved example. This is a little advanced concept. We'll do it today, but not right now. So question point number two here: on 5th January, Raj invested 10,000 in the business. So now we should be able to construct the journal entry for this in your mind. So the what has come in is cash. Cash comes in, right? They've not mentioned bank or cash. Money comes in, right? Like, so money has come in which format? It has come in the format of cash because they're not mentioning bank. So cash account debit is very clear, and credit will be capital account because he's invested. When the word used is Raj invested, means he's the owner of the business and he's investing capital, right? Now these are terms, accounting terms, and by experience you kind of learn it. You are right at the early stages of your accounting career as a student, so you have not got experience of these terms, but as you learn from teachers, as you read books, your experience will grow. Even if you go and work somewhere in a real office, your experience will grow. So when you read these terms, they should ring bells in your mind. Raj invested rupees 10,000 in the business means Raj is the owner of that business, and it is not mentioned it's a partnership. That means it must be a proprietorship. So you say to Raj's capital account. So the journal entry here is 5th Jan 2018, cash account debit, cash comes in 10,000 to Raj's capital. Now this is the journal entry. This you already learned. Now what we're really trying to do is how do you post this journal entry into the ledger? That process is called posting. So cash account debit. So now please follow my cursor while I'm speaking, right? So this is the cash ledger, and you will go, and this is cash has been debited. So on the debit side of cash, this is the debit side, the left side is the debit side, and the amount you will write down 10,000. Okay, cash has been debited. So in the cash account, you will write down debit, and over here you will write down 2. Raj's capital, which is the opposite entry. Okay. If you write down over here to cash, then it doesn't mean anything. In cash account, if you write down to cash, it is meaningless. What you have to write down here is from where did the cash come? Debit, right? So debit means this is a real account, cash is real account. So in the real account, you want to know when it is debit, that from where did the money come, right? So that will be written over here, and on the right hand side you will write down where did the money go, right? That's a credit on the real account, right? So where did it, how did it get added, and how did it get subtracted for any real account? That is how it will look like. The ledger will look on the left side is the plus how did that real account get added, how did you accumulate more balance in the real account, will always be on the debit side, and on the credit side will always be how did the money go out, how did the real account reduce, how did the balance of the real account reduce, how did it deplete, right? So try to get the concept, okay? Because once you get the concept, you can apply that for other real accounts, and it is going to be helpful when we reach trial balance. Okay, so I'm introducing certain concepts now. I'm using certain words because they have a deeper implication, which will help you later on to understand something else in a more easy way. So pay attention and understand the fact that this is a real account, and in the real account, left side, debit side is how it gets added, debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So here you will write down to Raj's capital. When you look at this and you don't look at the journal entry, if you don't have the journal entry and you look only at this, you should come to know, oh, cash came in. How did cash come in? Oh, Raj gave cash. And why did Raj give cash? Because he introduced capital. So this is how you can just look alone at this entry and you can make out what is happening. And the opposite entry, so you write down in cash account, you will write down, sorry, in Raj's capital account. So this is the second one, Raj's capital account. Raj's capital has been credited. So on the credit side, you will first write down 10,000, and then you will write down the opposite ledger name, the opposite account name. So how in Raj's capital, why is there a 10,000 credit? Raj is the giver. Okay, that is what it really means. It's a personal account. In a personal account, you will credit the giver. So what we are saying is Raj is the giver. When you look at this ledger, you should be able to make out Raj is a personal account. Raj account has been credited. That means he's a giver. So when he's the giver, the next question is what did he give? So what he gave was cash. So that is what will appear over here, which is nothing but if you look at it very technically, if you look at the journal entry in the cash account, you will write down Raj's name in the rows below, and in the cash account, you will write down Raj's name in the rows below. Okay, so this is a simple journal entry which has only one debit and only one credit, which is the simplest form of journal entry and which is the simplest form of posting. Okay, now we will take another second solved example. Anyone has a doubt in this first solved example? So do pause me in the middle of a video as well, in the middle of a lecture or a video, if you need me to answer the question. Okay, you need to unmute and speak up. I will answer your questions. Sure. So now let's move ahead. Illustration 2, posting of combined entry. So like I said, the first is posting of a simple journal entry where there is only one account debited and only one account credited. So the next we move to is a combined or a complex journal entry, right? So this is compound entry, paid 3,000 rent and 5,000 salaries. So basically rent account debit, rent is an expense account, and rent is an expense, it's a nominal account, sorry. A nominal accounts debit the expenses and rent is an expense. Salaries, again, nominal account and debit the expenses. So salary is an expense, so debit salary. So 3,000, 5,000 rent and salaries debit. And to cash, what has been paid is money. Money goes out. So to cash account, 8,000. Now, you also could have a cash book. Okay. We've already done cash book in prior lectures, in which case you will not make a separate cash ledger. But in the exams, when they ask you questions, it will not combine the cash book and the ledger, right? So you are also going to construct a cash ledger. right? But very, very typically in the real world, you will not make a separate cash ledger. The cash book in itself is a cash ledger. And if you remember the format, it is exactly the same when you look at the primary cash book, right? You see the left side debit, right side credit. The petty cash book is a slightly different format. The multi-column petty cash book is slightly different in format. Okay, so this is the journal entry: rent account debit, salary account debit, and to cash account 8,000. So it is fairly easy when you look at this in the rent account on the left hand side, debit side. So rent account on the left hand side, debit side, you will first in the column of amount, you will write down 3,000. What will you write down here? You will write down to cash, right? So that is the opposite over here. But amount will be 3,000 because how much is the rent? The rent is 3,000. The rent is not 8,000. The rent is not 5,000. Okay, so don't get confused. In the rent account, you will write down on the debit side 3,000. Why? This is the entry, right? 3,000. So you will write down this amount in this account on this side. 3,000 amount in the rent account on the debit side. Same way, the next entry, salary. So you will write down this amount, 5,000 in the salary account on the debit side. And then you will write down in the cash account on the credit side. The word credit has not been mentioned in the journal. That's not in the format, but otherwise just imaginary in your brain think credit word has been written over here. The fact it is in this column, right? So 8,000 in the cash account on the credit side. That is how you need to write it. But there is a small little issue here. If you write down 8,000, you don't write down 8,000 as 8,000. You will write down 8,000 separately, 3,000 and 5,000 both. So if you look at the cash account, you see 3,000 and 5,000. Okay. So this is 8,000. So in the cash account, like I said, 8,000, an entry for 8,000 will come. But since it is a complex journal entry, it is a combined journal entry, it will come as a two separate rows. And you will write down 3,000 against rent and 5,000 against salaries. And this will be written on the credit side. So the amount is fairly simple to post on which side. That is the first decision you have to make, whether you want to post on debit side or you want to post on the credit side. So anything which is being debited in the journal entry, you will post it on the debit side of that account. And anything which is credited in the journal entry, you will post on the credit side in the account. Okay, so this example is important to understand in terms of how a complex entry or a combined journal entry has to be posted, right? So this is nothing but posting of entries from the journal into the ledger. So we've taken already two examples. There is a third example. Now they're talking about GST. So I personally, I have already mentioned earlier, students who are 11th standard, very elementary form of accounts, you shouldn't confuse them with GST because even students at the inter CA level can get a little confused about the whole concept of GST. So I believe in explaining concepts and then the application of the concept a normal human being can do automatically rather than trying to memorize things, right? So if you don't understand GST, then how do you understand the journal entries and the ledger postings of GST? But nonetheless, it's in the syllabus, so you need to do it. I will probably do a separate lecture concept of GST so that it helps you when you're reading illustrations and examples of this sort. Okay, so now let's start. Posting of combined entries related to GST. Interstate purchase of goods for 40,000 and GST applicable amount paid by check. The rates of GST are 2.5, 2.5, so 5% is the total GST. Okay, so 40,000 is the good. So 5% on 40,000 is going to be 2,000. So half and half, that is going to be 1,000, 1,000. That is maths, not accounts. You should be good at this basic math. Okay, so posting of interstate purchase. So what has been purchased is goods. So purchase account debit The goods account are real, purchase account is nominal. Both ways you look at it. Expenses have to be debited, real accounts are coming in, so they have to be debited. So purchase account debit. So this is like the known part of the entry, right? Purchase account debit 40,000 rupees. You know your purchase goods worth 40,000 rupees. Now, in addition to this, when you purchase the goods, the person is going to charge you 2,000 rupees more. Okay, that is the GST component. Okay, that is how the GST nature of GST is, right? So he will charge you 2,000 more, which means 42,000. That means how much money will go out of your bank, right? Amount paid by check. So the second leg of the entry, which you should finalize, is to bank, and amount will be 42,000. Okay, so in sequence, first down, I will write down purchase account debit 40,000. Then I will leave 2-3 blank rows, and then I will write down to bank account 42,000. Okay, once I have done that, and then I know that, I I GST, I mean input state GST and input central GST. S is state and C is central. Central means the government of India, and state is the government of the state in which you are in, right? So input SGST, input CGST, 1,000 has to be put in here. That is how this becomes 42,000. Now that you have this journal entry and that you know how to post a complex journal entry, so then you automatically know how to prepare this. So in the purchase account, on the debit side, you will write down the amount 40,000. In the purchase account, on the debit side, you will write the amount 40,000. And what will you put over here in English? To bank account, the opposite. Then in input SGST account, that is, this is the input SGST account. On the debit side, 1,000. On the debit side, 1,000. Same way, central GST, sorry, scroll too much. Central GST, input central GST, right? Input central GST on the debit side, 1,000. So on the debit side, 1,000. Now, in the bank account, on the credit side, 42,000. But because it is a combined journal entry, you will write down 1, 2, 3, or 4 rows which add up to 42,000. In this case, you will put these 3 rows, 40,000, 1,000, and 1,000. So if you see here, that is what has been done: 40,000, 1,000, 1,000, and what you will write against it is purchase, input SGST, and input CGST. You will give that respective breakup, that is here, here, and here. Okay. So that is how you will post these entries here. Okay. Since we're talking about posting, I'm going to not speak too much more about input GST and central GST. You just look at it as a journal entry, which is a combined journal entry. There is account 1, account 2, and account 3. These 3 accounts are debited and this one account is credited. So for the concept of understanding posting to ledger, this is how you post it. This amount moves from here to here. This amount moves from here to here. This amount moves from here to here, all on the debit side. And this amount moves on the credit side from here to here, right? And the respective account names are going to be there. Understand this concept of posting. I think we've done 3 examples on posting. According to me, that is enough. Okay. So in terms of solved examples on posting of entries from the journal into the ledger, we have completed all of that in these 3 solved examples. At the end of your textbook, you will have unsolved examples and you will have some more of those to do. So that's enough in terms of examples. What I would expect you to do is look at your respective textbooks and try to solve some more examples.